Ray Arroyo, our dear friend, who has been part of the pomp and circumstance of the selection of this new Pope. Ray, we are so thrilled to have you live from Rome this morning. Hello.
Oh, my Chris, it's always great to be with you. Thank you for having me.
What a day yesterday, and I guess a shock to many people. I heard, no one saw an American Pope coming. How about you? Did you think it was outside of the realm of possibility?
Well, if you look at our podcast, on my Arroyo Grande podcast, we've been doing daily updates from Rome. And not only was he on our candidate show, but yesterday, just about an hour and a half before he came out on the balcony, my colleague Robert Royal and I were talking about Robert Prevost as a possible stealth dark horse candidate, a compromise candidate breaking through. But we never imagined it would happen this quickly. And, it was literally at the end of the show. I think it was like 34 minutes ago, our show yesterday. We only did 45 minutes. So, it was certainly a surprise. But it tells you a few things that you're not hearing in the media. And they all talk about, he's an American and he loves the White Sox. And like, what do we care? But that has no bearing on the church or humanity or anything. Here's the important thing. They chose him because two reasons. One, the vibrant churches in the world right now are Africa, Asia, and America. That's where all the action is. So you needed somebody who had a sensitivity for some of those places. This guy, Robert Prevost, now Leo XIV, covers both bases. He was a missionary in Peru for a very long time. Spent most of his life there, 20-something years. But he's a Chicago native. So he has a feel both for Peru and Latin and South America, as well as the United States. And he's only been at the Vatican for 3 years. But he ran the bishop's office, the dicastery of bishops. They pick and choose the bishops that populate the world, okay? So he knew a lot of these men, which was an important distinction to have in a conclave like this, because these 133 voters really didn't know each other. So that was a piece of why they chose him. The other reason is just, I think, what I'm hearing from the African cardinals, what I'm hearing from some other cardinals from other blocks that went into that conclave, the finances of the Vatican are atrocious. They're $2 billion in debt. They have a $400 million pension liability that they cannot pay. Somebody who understands at least bookkeeping has to come in and take charge of this. Pope Francis was not that man. He let this thing kind of continue to spiral out of control. And we have to be honest. I'll be blunt with your audience because I don't know any other way to be. Vocations are down under Francis in 12 years. The finances were terrible. Ordinations are down. So there's a lot to fix in the church. And hopefully Pope Leo XIV is the man to do it. We shall see. To be continued, Chris.
Yeah. Ray Arroyo there in Rome today for the selection of Pope Leo. And I will tell you as a Protestant, here's what I've noticed in my faith tradition. There is a surge in traditional Bible-believing Christianity. Similarly, with my Catholic friends, I hear there is a surge in a return to Orthodox Catholicism. Do you think this Pope recognizes that, and is that where the Catholic Church is trending?
Well, here's what I want to say for everybody listening in. And I said this on Fox the other day when we were narrating the masses in St. Peter's Square. This doesn't apply just to Catholics. The media keeps saying, the leader of the Catholics. Stop. This is our shared history as Christians. Here's why. They are saying those masses, and they chose this man literally above the tomb of St. Peter the Apostle. That's the first apostle that Jesus chose and gave him and the 12 the Great Commission to go off and preach the gospel to all of humanity and salvation. So this is the 267th successor to St. Peter. That's who was chosen the other day. So it has an import for all faith communities who are Christian, no matter your stripe, because the Pope is whether people like him or not, or they look to him or not, he is the spokesman, if you will, the mouthpiece for the gospel internationally. And they're not looking at him because he's a guy in white. They're looking at him because of the power that the church believes is given to St. Peter and to his successors, which is the keys of the kingdom of heaven, salvation itself, the message, as well as the power to bind and loose, as the gospel say. So that's what's happening here. It doesn't really matter. I'll put it this way, Chris. It doesn't matter what where the Pope is or his particular flavor of the week. You know, Pope Francis was more of a progressive Pope. He tried to push the limits. He caused a lot of confusion. But he didn't change the doctrine, and that's the point. Doesn't matter what the Pope's preference is or how he, you know, one might like to sing, one might like to go out and see foreign leaders, others might like to spend all their time in prayer and fasting. Whatever their particular charism is, the doctrine of the faith, the truths of Christianity, and the gospel remain unchanged. That is the point. The Pope's job is principally to protect the doctrine of faith. So if Pope Leo can do that, he will be a huge success. If he tries to challenge that, chances are God and time will cure it. So, I mean, it seems he's in the thrust. Look, if you listen closely, he's probably in the thrust of Pope Francis. But then when you look at the traditional garb he's wearing, the Latin he used today, his opening homily was very scriptural based. It wasn't about politics. It wasn't about his vision for the church or economies or immigrants. He focused on the gospel. These are all great signs. I think we have to be watchful. We have to pray for him and hope that he continues in his initial in the shoes of the fisherman, St. Peter, and walks in that path that Christ gave him, not anyone else or any political agenda.
You've literally known popes. You sit at dinner with popes. You know the role well. Arroyo Grande Podcast is Raymond Arroyo's podcast, which you've got to catch, and you can go to RaymondArroyo.com, ARROYO, if you don't know how to spell that, RaymondArroyo.com. That's his handle on X. Let me ask you about your knowledge of past popes. Let's look at Pope John Paul. I've read books and seen historical documentaries on his triad relationship with Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan. He was seen very much one of their allies. Is that a correct framing of history? And, you know, should Americans stop looking at popes as though they're, senators, governors, prime ministers, leaders that can be leveraged or compromised with or partnered with for different political means?
Well, look, the Pope wears two hats. Yes, he's the successor of Peter, and spiritually speaking, he is the leader of the Catholic Church, without a doubt. The other face the Pope wears is, and you know, when they elect him, they say we have a new supreme monarch. Okay, he's the supreme monarch of the Vatican city-state. He's a head of state. He has one of the widest diplomatic corps all across the world, and that's where John Paul II deployed that to share information and at times, reconnaissance to Ronald Reagan and Maggie Thatcher in the midst of the Cold War. They were aligned in this purpose. You know, as you know from reading those biographies, Reagan and John Paul II had a similar mind when they looked at the what they called the evil empire. They looked at Russia and said, "Wait a minute, this is a existential threat, it's a spiritual threat." So John Paul used moral suasion, used the word, used the power of nationalism to awaken his Polish people, and that toppled the whole thing. And then Ronald Reagan was doing the air cover politically and doing the weapons build up to bankrupt the Russians. So they were in tandem. Was it totally coordinated? Probably not, but they were certainly on the same page and moving in the same direction. And Providence, and I think God moved with them. Look, here's the cool thing about having an American here. You have an American who I think is in Pope Leo, who is not blind to the young people coming into the faith that you talked about earlier. They want tradition. They want eternal truths. They want the hard stuff, okay, the OG. They didn't come here for some watered-down guitar mass to hold hands in a yard and pretend we're all the same and go to a march. That's not what they signed up for. They want something to hitch their lives to, and frankly to risk their lives for. If Pope Leo can see that, and I think he may be able to intuit it. You know, Americans look at the world differently, and we're very practical. I think you may see a transformation even from the record of this man, which is why I don't want to. I kind of cringe when I see these people. Oh, he's a woke pope, or oh, he's a Republican. Look, we found out he's a registered Republican in Chicago. Look, well, that to me, all of that is immaterial. Fact is he a son of the gospel? Is he an apostle? And is he the man to apprehend what the church needs to do now in this moment in history and go and sanctify it in the way he's called to do. If he does that, this will be one of the most successful papacies ever. We will wait, we will see, we will pray.
Yeah. You're brilliant. I could listen to you all day. I don't have it. I know you don't either. But thank you so much for all of your perspective from Rome, Raymond Arroyo. Come back and see us. Thank you.
Anytime, my friend. Thank you, Chris. Always a joy to be with you.
The Chris Stigall Show Podcast.